Every one of us knows what it's like to be tired. How many of you are tired right now? Right? We all know what it's like to be tired. You could be tired because you're working too much. You could be tired because you're not sleeping enough. You can be tired just because of life's problems. They're overwhelming, whatever it may be. But we all experience seasons of being tired. And tired can come in different ways. Sometimes we get tired physically. Sometimes we're tired emotionally. And because I'm not an emotional person, the emotional tired is way harder on me than like physical tired. Sometimes we can even get spiritually tired. Now, there's seasons in life where it's a race, where you feel exhausted. You're running from thing to thing, and I got to go to this thing, got to go to that thing, got to spend time here, got to spend time there, got to spend money on this, spend money on that, whatever it is, and it's a race. There are times in life where you feel like I'm doing the right things. I'm doing the right things at work. In life, I'm forgiving people. I'm doing the things that I should do. I show up again. I'm praying again. I'm serving again. I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing, but yet I still feel tired. Sometimes we're taking steps of faith or we're sowing seeds of faith, but we look and we go, hey, I don't see anything changing. I don't see anything growing yet. And in those moments, we can get discouraged. We're in a series called Wait For It. In Galatians 6:9, we're going to dive into this deeper in just a moment. But the theme of this is just a reminder to those of us who are weary. Don't quit now. Don't quit now. The harvest is on the way. Now, before we fully jump into that, I want to give you some background information. I want to give you some context of this passage in Galatians. So let me set this up for you. Paul is the author of the book of Galatians, or the letter to the Galatian church. Now, here's what you need to understand about that church. This was in the early days of the Christian faith. This was in the early days where lots and lots and lots of people were hearing about Jesus and dedicating their lives to him. But because it was still in the early days, there was lots and lots of false teaching being put out there. So people were being confused. People were being pulled away in different directions and not knowing, hey, what's right, what's wrong. People were adding rules on top of the gospel, things that were not things that Jesus had talked about. So Paul is calling them back to a simplicity of a spirit-led life. In the beginning of Galatians 6, he talks about restoring believers gently. How many of you have ever been hurt by another believer before? All of you should be raising your hands. I mean, come on. Listen, we've all messed up. We've all done things that were wrong. Sometimes in the moment, we knew it was wrong. Sometimes in the moment, we didn't know it was wrong until later. Sometimes people think they're doing the right thing, but later they go, oh, that was actually not the right thing. Sometimes people can be led astray and even think like, hey, God's telling me to do this, but maybe it was really just themselves or somebody else. So Paul is talking about restoring believers gently. He says, if a believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently, that's a key word, gently and humbly help them. And it goes on later in that chapter to talk about carrying one another's burdens. How many of you ever had so many burdens in your life? You're like, I just wish somebody would come help me carry some, right? This is what we're supposed to do as a body of believers. We are supposed to help one another. We're not meant to do this journey alone. Then Paul transitions into talking about sowing and reaping. Now, this is farm terminology. Sowing seeds and then reaping the harvest. So the first part of this that he's talking about is people were sowing things of their flesh. So the seed that they were putting out there was just their own selfishness. I'm sowing selfishness. I'm sowing selfishness. And so when you sow selfishness, you reap destruction. But when you sow things of the Spirit, you reap a harvest. This all leads us up to verse 9. And here is where we are landing today. This encouragement that he has for us is to keep sowing those seeds even when you don't see the results yet. Will you continue to sow the seeds that God has asked you to sow in life when you don't see the results yet? Galatians 6:9. So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. So in other words, this is saying doing good pays off, but the harvest takes time. The harvest takes time. Point number one that we all need to be reminded, and we already know this, but sometimes we just got to be reminded, doing good is hard work. Doing good, doing right is hard work. Paul says it this way, let's not get tired. What does this mean? You're gonna get tired. He's saying, don't stop when you get tired. You are going to get tired. You've probably been tired as a parent. You've probably been tired as a spouse. You've probably been tired as a boss, an employee. You've been tired in lots of different areas of your life, but don't give up just because you're tired. You are going to be drained. Loving people and having relationships with people is messy. Serving other people can be thankless, but don't give up. Living by faith often means waiting longer than we want to. Now listen, we all have established that we are impatient people. We don't like to wait for things. And so when we talk about this, when we do something good, when we serve somebody, when we forgive somebody, when we do something like this, we want immediate results, and it just doesn't work like that. And so because it doesn't work like that, we get tired. We get fatigued in life. Now, here's what you need to understand. We're not rebuking you for being tired. We all get tired. We're not rebuking you for being tired. But I also want to tell you this. Just because you're tired doesn't mean you have failed. Let that sink in a little bit. Life is hard. Seasons of life are especially hard. Whether that's relationships, finances, whatever it is, can be very hard. But just because you're tired doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't. But just a reminder to not give up. To not give up. Being tired doesn't mean God has abandoned you. It simply means that you are human. Point number 2 is this. The harvest comes at just the right time. Now, this is the most important part. Paul does not say here, you are going to reap immediately. What does that mean? That you are going to get the harvest immediately. How silly would it be for a farmer to plant a seed on Monday and to expect a harvest on Tuesday? It doesn't work like that. It takes time. It takes effort. You got to dig up the ground. You got to plant the seed. You got to put the earth back over it. You got to water it. You got to let the sunlight hit it. You got to let it grow. Things are going to happen. And here's what we need to remember, that we will eventually reap the harvest, not immediately reap the harvest. Now, I want to let you know, I wish it was immediately. I'm sure you wish it was immediately, that if we could plant that seed and bam, it's right there. That's how I want it to be. But that's not what's promised. You see, what is actually promised to us is that when we plant that seed, you got to wait. and eventually there will be a harvest, not immediately. Now here's why, because God's timing is perfect. God's timing is precise. God's timing is purposed. It's supposed to happen right at that time. God never rushes and God is never late. Will you trust him with the timing? Now let's talk about seasons of life that we go through. When you plant a seed in your life, there's seasons, right? In the beginning, it's watering. And then after you've done that, there's a lot of waiting. And we don't like that waiting part. There's a lot of waiting that we have to go through. And then there's another season where we're weathering. What does that mean? That means we're allowing nature to take its course. We're allowing those things to happen. There are seasons, such as right now, where we are getting lots of rain. There may be other seasons where there's no rain. So we're weathering. There may be seasons of storms, and especially in Tehachapi, there's lots of season of wind, right? And all of these things are happening, and all of these seeds that we've planted, they're all dependent upon these other things that are happening around us. So we have to water, we have to wait, and then we have to weather, allow the weather to happen. And all throughout this whole process, we have to trust in God. Trust in God that the things that you have planted, that you're watering, that they're going to eventually become a harvest. You see, in the kingdom of God, the timing of the harvest belongs to the Lord. Let's pause. The timing of the harvest belongs to the Lord. It does not belong to you. It does not belong to you. The timing of the harvest belongs to the Lord. But here's what does belong to you: the perseverance, the waiting. Will you wait for it? Will you believe for it? Will you pray for it? Will you have faith for it? Will you continue watering when you do not yet see the growth? Will you continue waiting and trusting the Lord when you don't yet see that happening in your life? Will you trust God through it? Point number 3 is this: your harvest is connected to your consistency. Your harvest is connected to your consistency. What does that mean? It means when we read this verse, there's a condition on this. It says, if we don't give up. If we don't give up. And I'll be honest, we've all given up in things in our life. But what if we were right on the edge of the harvest? But we gave up, and so we didn't see the harvest. If we don't give up. What does this mean? It means being consistent matters. It means having perseverance matters. It means your obedience matters even when you don't see the results yet. So many of us, we get discouraged in life because we're like, I feel like I'm doing the right things. I feel like I'm being faithful. I feel like I'm persevering. I feel like I'm doing all of these things. And we just get discouraged because we don't yet see the end result that we're looking for. God sees every sacrificial choice that you have made. God sees every prayer that you are whispering, even when you're crying through tears. He sees what you're doing. He sees every act of kindness. He sees every time that you step away from a temptation. He sees every time that you say yes when you really want to just say no. But you're trusting God anyways. He sees you even when you don't feel seen. And he's saying, don't stop. Keep sowing because the harvest is coming. So what does a harvest look like for you? I assume most of you are not farmers. What does a harvest in your life look like? Maybe is the harvest having peace? Maybe the harvest is a restored relationship. You're like, I've apologized, or I've forgiven, or I'm trying to open up lines of communication. I'm trying to do the things that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm trying to do these things. Maybe the harvest is a child's heart turned towards the Lord. Maybe it's your spouse's heart turns toward the Lord, that you have been praying and believing, that you have been watering that seed that's been planting. You have been weathering through life. You have been doing all of these things and trusting God through it. And they give their heart to the Lord. Maybe the harvest is stepping into a season of joy after a season of tragedy and sorrow. Maybe a harvest for you is that the calling or that opportunity that you have been seeking finally opens. Maybe the harvest is that you step into a new level of faith, a new level of trust and relationship with the Lord. So how do we keep going when we feel like quitting? Because we've established we all feel like quitting. Remember who you're doing it for. Listen, if we just think about ourselves all the time, we're not going to finish much. But remember who we're doing it for. It's not to impress other people. It's to be faithful and obedient to what God has asked us to do. And God sees everything that you're doing. We need to remember to stay planted even when we don't see the growth yet. Because sometimes growth is happening, we just don't see it. You see, when we plant seeds, it also is growing roots, but we don't see the roots. So growth can be happening underneath the surface. So trust that it's growing. God is always working. So keep praying. Keep showing up. Keep giving. Keep forgiving. Keep loving. Keep serving. Keep trusting. The harvest requires time. This next one's an important one, to surround yourself with people who help you persevere. If you got people in your life that are negative Nancys, sorry if there's anybody named Nancy in the room, you got to surround yourself with some people who have encouragement, some people who have the gift of joy, some people who are ready to lift you up and encourage you. When you feel like quitting, they're just saying, hey, the harvest is coming. Hey, don't quit. God's still working. God's still moving. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that God's working, isn't working. So trust in God, but also it helps us to get some people around us that got our back, that are going to speak life, that are going to encourage us and pray with us. The next way that we, how do we not quit? This is an important one. Focus on God's faithfulness, not your feelings. Focus on God's faithfulness, not on your feelings. Any of you ever had a feeling lie to you? That's why it's so important to focus on God's faithfulness, not just our feelings, because our feelings can sometimes lead us astray. So we have to focus on our faithful God and say, okay, let me compare this to what God has done in the past. What's happening right now? Y'all, he's still faithful. He's still true. He's still kind. He still sits on the throne. So I am going to continue to trust in him. You see, because our feelings will say things like this, I'm tired. But faith says, God's not finished. Your feelings will say things like this, what's the point? But faith says, a harvest is coming, and that is the point. Your feelings say, I can't do this anymore. But God says, my power works best in your weakness. God's never asked you to do it alone. God's never asked you to do it in your strength, only in his strength. So if you're here today and you're tired, you're discouraged, you feel like quitting, you're wondering even if your obedience and faithfulness matters in life, I want you to understand this is what God is whispering to you today. Don't grow weary. Don't give up. I am working, and the harvest is coming.